We're live. We're live. Hello. I've got a friend in the building here. This is a Young Penitent channel. You're in my corner. And today I have with me David Treebeard. Say hello.
Hey, everyone.
So could you introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, what's up, everybody? This is my first time ever on a live stream. I'm a little nervous. I've got butterflies in my stomach. Forgive me.
That's good. Actually, it means it means you have chemicals going through your system. That means it's getting you ready to do a good job to perform.
Yeah, I've got a lot of chemicals in my body right now. I'm, caffeinated. We're ready to roll.
Okay.
David Treebeard.
This is David Treebeard, and he has, we're going to get around to this. He has started a business. So he is a entrepreneur, and he's started a business selling pemmican. And we're going to get around to that, and we're going to eventually, we're going to be tasting the pemmican on air and so forth. But I want to find out from David. I don't actually know all this. So you have a background in agriculture. You spent time like on small farms and things like that, right?
Correct.
So I want to know, like, what got you interested? How did you decide you wanted to be a farmer?
Yeah.
How did you get into that?
It's a good question because I grew up in the middle of Seattle in a very urban environment. So I was always really, I always preferred to be in nature, in parks, on the lake, on rivers, in the woods, in the mountains. And I always loved animals. But growing up, I never kind of pictured myself being a farmer. It was just not part of it was not on my radar, really. And then, let's see, when I was in college, I went to school out in rural Massachusetts in a very small town, totally surrounded by woods and farms, mostly hay or dairy or beef farms. And it was just beautiful country. And I sort of got spoiled for living in a big city at that point during college. And so I kind of decided I didn't want to go back to the metropolis. And then I watched this movie called Food Inc., which a lot of people have probably seen it. It does a great job at describing what's wrong with the industrial factory farm livestock production system, which is essentially a giant nightmare. Basically, it's like millions, even billions of animals essentially living a life of torture. And then that's our protein, which is terrible on a lot of levels. Obviously, I don't want those animals to suffer. Also, you are what you eat to some degree spiritually, right? So if an animal is having an experience of terror and discomfort for its entire life, it's going to affect the food, it's going to affect the nutrition, it's going to affect how that food makes you feel. And then right after I watched that movie by Providence, this guy named Joel Salatin, he's probably one of the most famous farmers in America. He came to my school and gave a presentation.
Okay.
And he was running back and forth on this stage, basically yelling about soil microbes and the co-adaptation of bison and grass building soil together over the course of millennia, and talking about how essentially livestock are the earth healers. Livestock are what build soil. They kind of keep nutrient cycling throughout ecosystems well. And it totally inspired me and showed me a whole new perspective on agriculture and animals and everything. And so after I graduated from college, I moved to a farm outside of Junction City here in Willamette Valley. And I was there for about 9 months. And essentially, my whole life was turned upside down because I had grown up in the middle of the city. I was sort of indoctrinated with this belief that like city people are smarter, country people are simple, and country life is simple. And I realized that I just could not be more wrong. I realized that the country is much more interesting. It's much more complex. Typically, it's much more beautiful. And so I got addicted to that lifestyle, being on the land and working with animals.
Okay, so it was the movie first, and then a person
Yeah.
who really turned you on. You'd say probably.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
his energy, just the love that exuded from him and the enthusiasm. I looked at him and I was like, I want what that guy's having because it's powerful. So,
I actually had a. I didn't never told you this, but I had a kind of a similar experience in college, and I took this course. I know I'm interviewing you. It's not my story time, but I took this course at U of O called Urban Farm, I think it was called, and we learned all about all this stuff you're kind of talking about and food. I remember, and there was actually a speaker too at the end. Actually, they brought in a lot of speakers. There was a particular speaker that they brought in who got me fired up, kind of like you, almost exactly like you. It's like almost the same story. And I wanted to go work on a farm and do what you did. And I went out to this farm, and then
but you became a rapper instead.
And then I became a rapper instead. It didn't work out. I guess it wasn't God's. I don't know. I could have pushed, and like if I really wanted to do it, I could have done it. But I didn't end up as a farmer. So you went to multiple farms though, right?
Yeah.
Like how many years did you spend, or how much time?
I started my first year on a farm was 2015. So I just last season was my 7th farm season.
Okay.
And I've worked on, I don't know, 4 or 5 different farms in Oregon. And then I spent 3 years starting a farm with a couple friends up in Washington, which was a lot of fun and learned a ton.
Okay. So I want to tie this in here. He mentioned the spiritual aspect. It's true. Why are we talking about like farming, food? This actually does have an aspect to the spiritual life because, the body is the temple of the Holy Spirit. I've talked about this before, and you got to take care of your body. You got to be careful what you put in your body. You can't just be putting junk in your body, which is going to come around to this product that you started. So you've got this company, Steadfast Provisions.
Yeah.
And you sell meat products, right?
We sell pemmican.
Yeah. You got a couple different.
Yeah, we've got a few products, but they're all pemmican based, which essentially means that they're really high in animal fat.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah. So have you ever started a business before, like a real business like this? Or?
Well, my friends and I started a farm business 5.5 years ago, and we ran that for like 3 years. So I was sort of familiar with the basics of making a business plan and,
all right,
making all these plans that don't really work out, but you have to make the plan and then you have to adapt when the plans change.
Okay. Because I was like watching you like do this, and I was kind of impressed that you like seemed to know what to do to start a business. You like developed a product and you had the website and everything. It's actually pretty impressive. So,
well, both my parents actually started their own businesses too. So they sort of, I guess, just watching how they've operated, I've learned a little bit about like branding and marketing and, just how to go from 0 to 1.
Okay. Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
So there's a story behind the pemmican. I want you to tell a story of how you decided how you landed on this idea that you wanted to sell pemmican.
It's a long story, and it actually started at the same time as I started farming. So I moved to this, it was beef, raw milk, pork, chicken, and lamb farm. So it was like multi-species grazing, super fertile land, tons of beating hearts on this land. It was beautiful. And they had this book that was all about how to use the entire animal from nose to tail, how to tan the hide, how to make bone broth and all this stuff, how to use the brain. And it had a section about how to use the kidney fat, which is saturated fat kind of protecting the interior organs. And it's super high in saturated fat, which a lot of people are afraid of, unfortunately. But in this section, it had a paragraph or two about pemmican. And they said, this is a traditional Native American food that keeps forever and is a complete food. So you can eat only pemmican and thrive. And I read that and I was like, how's that possible? any other food that's complete and immortal. And I did more research, and I realized that it's also one of the most nutrient dense foods, like calories per ounce, super high with this food. So I was inspired, and I experimented with making some on the farm there with beef and tallow that they had and blackberries. And it was like, I did a pretty good job. It was okay, pemmican. And then I just sort of forgot about it. But then a friend of mine from that farm the following year hiked the PCT. And
that's the
Pacific Crest Trail,
Yeah.
which is something like 2,000 miles with tons of vertical up and down. And typically people lose like a third of their body weight on this trail. It's like they're emaciated by the end. But my friend, I had given him some pemmican. He was inspired. So he made himself a whole bunch of pemmican for the PCT and hardly lost any weight on the whole trail. He was a beast by the end. He was like covering 30 miles a day, just chugging, and still looked basically the same as before. And so he was thinking about starting a pemmican company.
Okay.
But then he kind of ran out of steam. He was doing other stuff. He got a different job. And so both of us sort of forgot about the idea. And then, let's see, last fall, I finished my master's program, didn't know really what to do. And I was working at a pig farm, and we had boxes and boxes of leaf fat. So the kidney fat from pigs in the freezer. And people...
That's the good stuff, right?
Yeah.
It's got all the vitamins and stuff.
Lots of vitamin D, vitamin A. Yeah. And people, basically, they weren't buying this fat for two reasons. One, because they were afraid of animal fat. Most people still are. And two, because it's kind of hard to deal with. It's kind of a pain. You have to chop it up and render it. And then it's hard to clean up because it's like greasy pots and everything after you render it. So nobody wants to deal with it. And I thought to myself, this is like the best part of the pig. You know, this is one of the best products that a farm can produce, this leaf fat from pasture-raised pork. There has to be a good way to prep this and sell this so that it doesn't get wasted and just languish in the freezer. And so I remembered the pemmican and thought, oh, maybe I'll make some pemmican with some of this lard and take this waste stream and make it into, you know, immortal, complete, epic, nourishing food. And so that was the genesis of starting the Steadfast Pemmican Company last year. And then it was, you know, spent a few weeks thinking about the right name and sort of experimenting with recipes and stuff like this and reading about fat and doing research.
Oh, didn't you have an experience where you were doing some hiking, and because you wrote that story on your website about?
Yeah.
Did you want to tell that?
Sure. Yeah, that was so. One reason why I've been open to the idea of animal fat being good for you is because I was working as a forest ranger like 11 years ago up in the Cascade Mountains. And I was eating, you know, trail mix and dried mangoes and Annie's mac and cheese. And
so this was before you got you learned about
a long time ago. I was hiking, you know, 15 miles a day, kind of I was backpacking, getting paid to go backpacking. It was an unbelievable summer job. It was awesome. But I was just shedding weight, and I was like skinny. And at that point I was playing college lacrosse. So I didn't want to lose any weight. I wanted to like keep some, you know, mass. And my boss started bringing me like summer sausage and salami and like bacon and pork belly and stuff up on the trail and like sharing it with me. And he was like, listen, man, if you're exercising hard, you need this fat, you know, because it's going to like, he was like, it'll lubricate your joints. It like helps your brain. It helps you, you know, keep muscle on and all this stuff. And so I just started eating a ton of fat. At that point, I stopped eating gluten for a while, and I felt amazing. Basically, I stopped losing weight, and I was like charging around the mountains. Like, it was easy. All
right. So you decided not to go. You decided instead of eating trail mix, you wanted to eat fat,
animal fat.
I have to confess to you that I still have, you know, my dad's a cardiologist, and you know, teaches people not to eat saturated fat, and and he lives it. He's like a real skinny guy. He weighs like about 125 pounds, which is like what he weighed in high school. He's always doing cardio, and he's the only person I know that when he puts butter on the bread, there's less butter on the bread when he's done putting it on there than when he started, because he puts it on there and he kind of scrapes it off. And
what's the point of putting the butter on?
Yeah, I know, it's a joke. So I still have this like in my mind, when I'm eating a steak and there's like a big marbled fat, like you eat that, right? Do
I?
Yeah, do you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you just eat the fat. I mean, people have it in their head you're supposed to cut the fat off and not eat it because it's gonna clog your arteries or something like that.
Should we tell them about seed oils?
We should. We definitely should get to seed oils.
Yeah, because it's all connected. The animal fat. And
I want to know everything you know. This is your opportunity to tell people.
All right. Well, this has been kind of blowing up on the internet in the past year and a half or so.
Right.
But it turns out that polyunsaturated fats, which come from mostly seeds, pretty much exclusively from seeds or fish oil, but corn oil, canola oil, soybean oil, all these oils or cottonseed oil was the first one,
right?
Which was developed, I think, in the 1910s by.
I think it was after World War II, right? Because they were using it as it was like an engine. It was like a grease. They were using it to grease engines, right?
Well, after World War II is when they really started marketing them hard, but they were invented prior to that.
Okay.
And
Crisco was the first.
Crisco. Well, cottonseed oil, yeah, similar to Crisco now. Yeah. Because actually it was a byproduct from cotton production. That's what it was.
Oh, it was cottonseed oil, not the rapeseed oil.
Cottonseed oil.
Cottonseed oil.
Yeah, rapeseed oil was later, and then they rebranded rapeseed to canola oil.
Right, canola.
Which means like Canada oil or something, because
is that what it means?
Canada's the #1 producer of canola.
Oh, interesting.
Which is absolute trash.
I thought that was healthy. I thought that was like, you want to eat canola oil.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's kind of been the meme in mainstream medicine for the past 75 years is, saturated animal fat is bad for you. You need to have these unsaturated, heart-healthy fats.
Right.
And it was so strange because if you actually examine rates of heart disease per capita, they started rising as soon as that propaganda came around. So the propaganda said, animal fat is bad for you, switch. People slowly began to switch. They put in margarine instead of butter. They had skim milk. They would, they'd cut the fat slab off your steak, all this stuff. And so gradually people's diets contained less saturated fat and more polyunsaturated seed fat, but heart disease kept steadily rising.
So it wasn't working.
Well, it was having the exact opposite effect. They were saying,
interesting.
Yeah, it's basically like one of the biggest nutritional gaslight operations in history.
Oh, okay.
It might be one of the worst medicinal frauds in history, because if you think about how many hundreds of millions of people were basically convinced to completely eat a brand new diet that was nothing like what their ancestors ate, eating these types of fats that are unprecedented in the history of human digestion. And also moving away from animal fats, which contain so many amazing vitamins and minerals and are also just good in themselves. Like saturated fat is incredibly good for you. You have thousands of saturated fat cells in every cell of your body.
Okay.
So the lipid layer that surrounds your cells and surrounds the mitochondria inside your cells is largely made up of saturated fat. And if you don't have enough saturated fat, it's not stiff enough and it's too permeable, and it leads to all this crazy oxidation. It gets really complex, but essentially saturated fat is an essential nutrient. It's completely essential. And if you don't eat it, then your body's going to manufacture it. And in the process of manufacturing it out of other types of fats or out of sugars, it uses up a whole different array of nutrients. So it uses niacin, it uses vitamin K, and so basically it depletes you in all of these other nutrients.
Okay.
So it's sort of starting to change. The paradigm is switching back around, and people are realizing that the saturated animal fats that our ancestors prized for all of human history until 100 years ago are the good ones. That's really what we need.
So I'm sort of picturing in my head, like people used to live on farms basically, and they would eat what they had. They had the animals. They would eat the fat from the animals and the butter from the cow. That they had. They didn't have vegetable oils. It didn't exist.
Exactly. It didn't exist at all. And if you look at, say, 130 years ago, if you look at the average diet of like a American homesteader or something like this, they're getting 40% of their calories at least from saturated fat. So they were great. They didn't have heart disease. Rates of cancer were extremely low. They had health problems, obviously, that were of a different sort, but they also had pretty much no obesity. 100 years ago, a fat person was like
rare. Yeah.
It was like they would call fat someone who looks like you and me.
I remember seeing, like, did you see the picture? Like the person who was in the circus, the fat person looked like a normal American today. It was like you pay at the circus to go see a normal see the amazing fat person.
Yeah, correct.
And it was just like what a normal American looks like today.
Can I
Let's
comment on a comment here?
Do you want to start at the top? I mean, the first one is I like this first comment. The Honest Patriot says fat is flavor in steak. You want a lot of marbling. I have absolutely discovered that. You cut a little piece of meat and you eat a little piece of the fat with the meat at the same time with good salt on there. Oh, that just makes it just like rich and bursts in your mouth.
Yeah.
Don't cut that off. Yeah, you eat that.
Yeah, our body knows what it wants. What's going to taste awesome.
Okay, the next one is what about avocado oil?
Okay, so this one, I want to tackle this one along with this last comment from Jim Hellenic that says olive oil is a vegetable oil. And I want to make a quick distinction. So a fruit is a seed and then an endosperm. Okay, the endosperm is the nutrition that is around the seed in a fruit. So sometimes it's sugar, sometimes it's fat. In the case of olives and avocado, that is fat. So this is what the plant makes to attract animals, maybe birds in the case of olives, maybe monkeys in the case of avocado or whatever, to attract animals who eat that fruit, they eat that endosperm, and then they drop the seed somewhere else. So it propagates. So when you think about olive oil and avocado oil, those are actually not vegetable oils. They're not seed oils. They're more properly termed fruit oils, fatty fruit oils. And so they're quite good. If you can get, I think olive oil is probably better. When we're on the vegan fasts, I usually go with olive oil because I've read that a lot of avocado oil is actually rancid. I don't know why that's the case, but I guess it's just sort of a not as good of a supply chain or something like that. But those are really high in monounsaturated fatty acids, which are pretty good for you. They're actually monounsaturated fatty acid is good, and that there's a lot of that in tallow as well. So the fats that are inflammatory that you should avoid are the polyunsaturated fatty acids. So,
okay.
Yeah. So that's the seminar on fats here.
Yeah, that's great. Great information. I learned something new. This fruit oil,
olive oil.
Yeah.
It's good stuff. The Honest Patriot. I just learned you can buy olive oil made on Mount Athos. Wow, I would buy that.
Well, you're going to Mount Athos. You can
That's true.
bring an extra suitcase, and you can bring some olive oil back.
I'll bring
The best olive oil in the world.
holy olive oil.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll bring
Made
a
with-
suitcase full of olive oil.
Made with prayer.
Yeah, exactly.
Actually, prayer does make food better, taste better. Not just probably better for you too.
I'm sure of it.
You know that they, you know how that Japanese guy was taking pictures of water molecules. They would play some music, they would play some classical music over in front of some water, and then he took pictures of the water molecules, and it was like these beautiful structures. And then he played like death metal over the water, and then he took pictures, and it was like ugly and disjointed. And then there was also a study they did of blessed food. When they would bless food, the bacteria counts was like lower or something like that. I
Really?
think. Yeah.
Huh.
So it was that you can, like, if you think some food's bad but you're really hungry, you just make the sign of the cross over it. You'll probably be okay.
Yeah,
and eat it.
I do that every time I go to a restaurant and I have to eat something that I think has canola oils in it. I'll bless it up and do what I can.
I think we all need to start asking what oil our food was made in when we go to restaurants, and then they'll start to get the idea.
I don't like being that guy, but sometimes you got to be that guy. But I heard about a priest who had a hard-boiled egg on Pascha, and he kept it in his fridge for the year until the next Pascha, and then ate it.
Oh,
because it was a special blessing
from
Pascha.
And it was still good?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's what he said.
All right.
Still good. Yeah. Also, on the subject of the pemmican, I saw a video of a guy who opened up pemmican from 1906, and he opened it up in 2015 and ate it on video, and is alive to tell the tale.
That's on YouTube.
Yeah. It's this guy. I don't remember exactly what his username is, but he's like a MRE enthusiast, which means meals ready to eat, like military sort of travel or mission rations.
Yeah.
So pemmican used to be sort of a standard U.S. Army military ration, and if all goes well, it will be one day again. Okay,
so tell the history of pemmican. It's originally a Native American food, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's a Native American food, and it had many different varieties across the country. Anywhere west of the Appalachians, they were making pemmican of some kind. Here in the Northwest, they would make it out of fish, out of salmon. But in the Great Plains, they use bison. So they would basically have a big bison hunt in like September and kill, dozens of bison. And then what they do is they take all of the meat and they cut it into shreds, and then they dry it, often in the sun. If it's not nice out, they'll smoke it in a teepee. And then they'll take the kidney fat, the back fat, and then usually they extract the bone marrow as well and render that fat in a ceramic pot. And then this is actually, if you've seen Dances with Wolves, there's a scene where some women are doing this. They take the dried beef and they pound it in a stone mortar and pestle. And then they basically fill up a big rawhide bison pillow with this shredded dried meat. And then they pour in the rendered fat. So they have this and then they sew it up. So it's this big rectangular pillow thing made of bison rawhide, and it ends up being about 90 pounds total, 50% dried meat and 50% rendered fat. And that would come from one whole buffalo. So basically they transform a buffalo, like a 900-pound animal, and compress it, pemmicanize it into this 90-pound piece stored in rawhide. And that's what would get them through the winter.
Did they put berries in it too? Didn't they?
Maybe some tribes did,
Maybe.
but typically it was literally just the meat and the fat. And then
Okay.
people say that when the white people showed up, they liked sweetness and they liked carbs, so they started putting berries in it.
Okay. So
Yeah.
so white man took it and he made it better.
Yeah.
What
Yeah,
did he,
who would've
or did
thought?
he ruin it?
He made it. He made his own.
He made it his
His
own.
own thing. Yeah.
So white people started using it for travel and or
yeah.
hiking around and
So the biggest use was in the fur trade. So beaver fur trapping up in Canada mostly.
Okay.
They would get. There was a tribe in what is now Alberta called the Métis tribe, which means mixed. It was basically like the descendants of French Canadian voyagers who had mated with, native plains women, and their offspring were like the best buffalo hunters and the pemmican makers. So they would supply all these the Northwest Company and the Hudson Bay Company. They would supply them with pemmican for their beaver trapping adventures in the far north. And there were a couple of wars fought over this pemmican supply, actually, because it was so crucial for the fur trapping industry, which was a huge industry, by the way. It was like the main industry in Canada for like
really?
for like 50
Whoa.
years at least. Yeah. Because everyone in Europe loved their beaver hats.
Right.
Yeah. So these guys were all eating pemmican, and they would go, months eating only pemmican in the most strenuous conditions you can possibly imagine. Like up north in the summer, 95 degrees, 100% humidity, swarms of mosquitoes everywhere. You're hauling the 90-pound piece of pemmican on your back. You're portaging big boats around rivers. You're hauling beaver hides, all this. It's crazy what these guys did. It was like they were a different breed. But they would eat only pemmican. They'd eat like 2 pounds of pemmican per day.
2 pounds?
Yeah, I know.
How many calories is that?
That's like 6,000 calories.
6,000. Okay.
Yeah. So they were beasts. And for you and me, we don't need 2 pounds. Probably 1 pound would do us, unless we're trying to make some gains.
Right. So this is a good food for like if you're going hiking, you're going in the wilderness, if you're backpacking, and it's also since it lasts forever, this would be a good food for buy it and throw it in your pantry for because it's long-term storage in case in case the world falls apart. Some people think that could happen. The society can crumble or fall apart around us. But you'll have your pemmican, so you'll be okay. You'll survive it. He sells it in these bricks. They're actual, like the size of a brick.
Do you have your brick here?
I have it over there. You want me to go? Should I go get it?
Yeah, go get it. Yeah, we sell a brick. It's something like 32 ounces, 6,000 calories, and it's just. I mean, you can stack these in your closet. They'll probably be around in 50 years and be good to go. So this is Daniel's brick here. It's literally the same dimensions as a mortar brick. You could like build a house with this. And the seal broke on his original packaging, so we had to reseal it for him. But yeah, this is gonna feed Daniel when he's 85 years old, and when Klaus Schwab wants him to eat bugs.
Yeah,
he's gonna go back with this.
Or like when we have persecution because they're gonna start throwing us into camps or something like that, and I don't want to eat the bugs, so I'll just order that on your website, steadfastprovisions.com. I'll take the money that you're gonna put on my commissary account. And I'll order that because they let you order stuff online, from the camps.
Oh, they will?
Yeah.
All right,
yeah.
Cool. Well, we'll be your official gulag beef fat supplier.
You can survive on this for years. That's all you need. I mean,
yeah.
So just one food and you'll have it.
Yeah. We also sell it in these 4-ounce bars. This is kind of the label here. This is my Flying Cow logo.
Oh, he's got a shirt.
Yeah, I got a shirt. Only a few of these. Hit me up if you want a shirt. So the ingredients of this are dried beef tallow. It has a little bit of honey, and then this version, I added granulated onion, granulated garlic, salt, and black pepper. So it's seasoned bar. And I also make a version with just beef, fat, and salt. And I also make a super traditional version with just the beef and fat.
Oh,
So that's what I would recommend.
So you have 3 kinds?
Yeah, 3 flavors.
3 flavors.
Yeah. Should we go to some comments here?
Yeah, it looks like we missed a few.
We've got raw eggs.
The raw egg.
Yeah, you can preserve them. Yeah, mineral lime. Yeah, that's a good way to do it. What do I think about raw egg consumption? I think from what I've read, raw is better, especially with the yolks. I guess the only question I have, the only thing I'm not positive about is the whites. Some people say that the whites need to be cooked because there's some type of amino acid in there or enzyme in there that like can disrupt digestion. And I watched a video of a guy who ate 30 eggs a day for 30 days. And he said that he started just kind of throwing away. He was eating all the yolks raw, but he started throwing away the egg whites because they were causing him indigestion. So if you can do raw yolks and then, you know, I don't know, fry the egg whites or something.
The egg whites, yeah.
Yeah, something like that. That's what I would do personally. And okay, is this on keto diet question? This is a keto product for sure. And the cool thing about this is it's actually a perfect ratio of fat and protein for a keto diet. So this is by weight, it's about 50% dried beef and 50% rendered fat. So it's got every ounce has 10 grams of protein and 15 grams of fat. So since fat has 9 calories per gram, whereas protein only has 4 calories per gram, you end up eating that. You end up between 75 and 80% of your calories coming from fat, which is where you want to be in ketosis. So it's perfect for ketosis. And there's negligible amounts of honey in there. I did 30 days eating only pemmican this fall with the unseasoned version. And I was in ketosis. It felt really good.
I didn't know that. You didn't tell me that.
Yeah, it was low-key.
You're so humble. The website is steadfastprovisions.com, and it's in the description below.
What's the take on peanut oil from NC Harris? What's up, NC? The peanut oil is probably better than canola. I think a lot of things are deep fried in peanut oil. I deep fried a turkey in peanut oil for Thanksgiving, and it turned out great. I would, if you can, I think, go with butter or tallow or lard or avocado oil or olive oil rather than peanut oil. But if it's your only option, I think it's better than soybean. It's better than corn. It's better than canola.
And look out for that cottonseed oil. That's like basically the worst one because cottonseed is a non-food crop and they're allowed to spray all sorts of chemicals that are not allowed on food crops, and they still let them use it for food. So it's got a lot of pesticide traces, residues in it. So that's the one you really want to look out for and stay away from if you can.
Yeah. Cottonseed. Don't eat cotton. Just wear it. Okay, we got the Honest Patriot, the shorthand version of how I found orthodoxy. Sure, we can do that.
That's right.
We got a quicker question right after that. How about ghee? Ghee is fantastic. I love ghee.
Yeah.
Eat it all.
Ghee is good.
Ghee is great. What do you think? Should I talk about orthodoxy?
Well, he asked you. He asked.
Yeah. Okay. It's your show.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. It's topical. Let's see. I had a long kind of spiritual journey throughout most of my 20s. I majored in philosophy in college, mostly because I was kind of preoccupied with the question of like, what's the meaning of life? Essentially, what are people for? What is goodness? What should I do with my time and my energy? And so I studied 4 years of secular academic philosophy. And at the end of that, you kind of get down to this layer of existentialism where you realize that logic can't really give you meaning. It can't give you a reason to live. It can't even justify itself. So I sort of got jaded on philosophy in that sense. And that was like part of the reason I moved to a farm too, because I was like, all this heady stuff, it's not really getting me where I need to be. I want to go use my hands, get my hands dirty, connect with nature. I know that's real. I know it's good to grow food for people and take care of the earth. Those are just like good things. I know it's good. I'll try it. And so I had all kinds of adventures, did all kinds of psychedelics, did all kinds of meditation, did all kinds of thinking about, the spirituality in nature. And then essentially in 2020, like early 2020, I was practicing Buddhist meditation. And then this question came up that was essentially like, okay, so there's two central Buddhist doctrines that don't really work. One of them is there is no soul. And the other is you get reincarnated millions of times. And that's how the universe is.
Okay.
And so I just wondered,
which is that all Buddhism? Or
no, there's
certain
other
ones?
stuff to it.
There's different schools, right?
Yes, but they all have reincarnation.
They all have reincarnation?
And
even Zen?
I think Zen is, maybe Zen doesn't have reincarnation. I'm not sure. I was doing Tibetan Buddhist meditation, which is like Tibetan Buddhism is like, this is kind of this is a stretch a little bit. And I don't mean this like 100%, but Tibetan Buddhism is to Buddhism sort of what Orthodox Christianity is to Orthodoxy, in the sense that it has it's like maximalist tradition. It has like the art and the doctrines and everything is like full throttle. And so they would say, you have no soul, but you get reincarnated a million times. And it's like, okay, well, what's getting reincarnated? And it's such a simple question. It's so fundamental, but there was just no good answer, basically. And so I was pretty disappointed. And then around that time, the COVID happened, and we were all having a great time, listening to the CDC.
I loved it. I was all into that.
Yeah. So I started just kind of wondering, like, why am I being gaslit and lied to?
I wanted to stay home. I wanted to wear the mask. I still wear it. I mean, even if you're not asking me to wear it, I put it on.
Yeah.
Driving in my car.
I know. I got
two or three.
I got vaxxed up right before I came.
Triple vaxxed.
Just to be safe.
I actually told him I didn't get the vax, and I went back and got it again.
So basically, we were.
We gotta be careful what we say.
Yeah, I know. We can't cross that red line here. We don't want to be medical disinformation.
No.
Anyways, I started thinking about why I was being lied to so much, and then I realized that like most of mainstream culture is kind of BS, and so I sort of basically it was like the equivalent of me moving my body from the middle of Seattle out to a farm. This sort of happened in my mind, where in 2020 I was like, I was like in the liberal paradigm, and I was like, yeah, this is BS. And so I started, exploring other places. And at that point, my friend Maximus had been leaving little breadcrumbs to the Orthodox Church. He had converted just a few months prior, and we had all kinds of adventures together in psychedelic world and spiritual New Age world, So he started telling me about Orthodoxy, and at one point he sent me a link to the church down here in Oregon, and he said, "This looks beautiful. You should go check it out." And I was mentally primed for it by watching, I watched some J. Dyer apologetics videos and a couple of videos from Father Maximos Konstas, this Greek monk who is just an absolutely brilliant presenter and philosopher. So I was mentally kind of ready for it. And then I went to liturgy, and it was the first day that the church was open after the lockdown. So everybody was just overjoyed and ecstatic to be there.
Um,
And I walked in and I was like, I have no idea what's going on.
right.
I was totally overwhelmed.
Takes a while.
Well, it actually, but even though I had no idea what was going on, I immediately knew I need to be here.
Yeah.
This is my home.
You felt something inside.
Yeah. I felt like, click, this is it. I'm home. I need to figure out what's going on. And I'm still figuring out what's going on.
So you're
2.5 years
you're
old.
like a COVID refugee.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We can thank COVID for that, I guess.
Thank God.
Something good came out of it.
I think a lot of good things came out of it, man. We've got all this new mRNA technology. It's going to change the world. Yeah. No, but I don't think I'm the only one who was a COVID Orthodox convert, if you will. And then, so I was going to church for a couple of months. And at one point I asked young Penitent here, I was talking to him about it. And he said, well, keep coming. Just keep showing up to church. And I was like, I don't feel like I have a choice. And he said, well, you always have a choice. But I didn't really have a choice. I still don't really have a choice. So that's where we are. Trying to be Orthodox.
With God, it's always yes.
Amen.
Yes to God. We say yes to God.
Yeah.
I think that's scriptural. Do we have any other COVID refugees in the chat? Say hello. Let's see. So that you actually reminded me of a story. Like you were talking about the Zen or the Buddhist meditation. Like I've never told anybody this before, but I was doing this meditation and sitting there doing the meditation, and all of a sudden I had this thought come into my mind, and with all my soul, I said, Lord, have mercy on me. I don't know where that came from.
Wow.
And all of a sudden, I felt like this rush of energy, like just shoot up, like through my spine into my head, and my mind was like lit up, like illuminated. Like this part of this is like me, my mental illness was part of that. But I always remember that. And when I later found Orthodoxy and I learned about the Jesus prayer, I said, there's something here, there's something to that Jesus prayer that's central to my life that is important. And that's the first time I've ever told anybody that story.
Wow. Can I tell you about something I heard?
Yeah.
So I heard about this I met this woman in California who was doing some kind of meditation visualization stuff. And at one point she was meditating and just had trying to clear her mind. And she said that she heard a voice that just said, go read the Bible. And so she, the next day, went and found a Bible and started reading the Bible and kept doing her meditation. And then in the meditation the next day, it said, you need to go to church. So it was like this, just basically Jesus just like reached into her mind and just tapped her and was like, I want you,
Wow. You know this person?
Yeah. I met her, last year.
Is she Orthodox?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah. She's Orthodox.
That is nuts.
Yeah. I know. I've never heard a conversion story quite like that, where it's just like totally non-human.
Wow.
Just direct. God just started,
I guess there's stories out there. People have stories.
Yeah, there was that one saint who, like, her dad locked her up in a tower, and she just looked out at how beautiful the stars were and realized that there had to be a God.
Right.
Yeah.
And then I think someone came and taught her about the faith or something eventually, right?
I think so.
Yeah. You can discover God by looking at nature. You can deduce that God exists using your mind, but you can only go so far because there are certain things, Christianity is the the religion of revelation. It's a revealed religion, and so some things you have to learn from a preacher or from books or something. You can't figure it all out yourself, but you can discover that God exists.
Yeah, which is why every traditional culture ever has essentially believed in the Father, Creator in the sky, right? But I mean, yeah, can you like just think about how like wild the actual story is? The infinite Creator becomes man in a cave, gets tortured to death.
Yeah,
like, that's beyond human imagination.
Like-
Nobody could make that. Nobody could think of that.
And Pilate asks him right before he's about to get crucified, he says, "Are you a king?" And he says, "You say that I am." And here he's a condemned criminal about to get killed, and he gets killed. He's a king. He says, "You say that I am." He's a king, and he gets killed. He's not going to rule. He's not going to sit on a throne. He gets killed. And like people think even the apostles thought it was over. It was the end. But 3 days later,
boom. Christ is risen.
Christ is born.
Christ is born. Glorify him.
Let's see. Do we have some? What's VID? What is VID?
The Honest Patriot started seriously delving into Orthodoxy in 2020. Not vid related. Well, that's good.
Oh, okay.
Frederica Matthews Green was an atheist, went into Orthodox Church while on vacation, and heard the Theotokos. Wow. That's beautiful. It's like some people God just, chooses, right? Just taps them. I wonder if like everybody
has an opportunity,
has something like that happen.
Well, we all have an opportunity to, if you wanted to follow the rabbit, so to speak, you would find the church eventually. If everybody has that opportunity in life. I mean, everybody knows about Jesus Christ by now, the whole world. I mean, there's very few places. There might be a few corners of the earth where he hasn't been proclaimed, but most people have had an opportunity to hear the word, even if it's not, from an Orthodox preacher necessarily, but
yeah. Jim says that's why St. Paul says that pagans have no excuse. Yeah. Exactly.
Romans chapter 2, I think he's referring to. Yeah. So it says beef bar on there. What's with the beef bar?
Oh yeah. So beef bar here. I had a label before that said pemmican bar, but
I told him he should have called it beefcake.
Beefcake. It's for beefcakes only. But basically, the USDA, they don't have a definition for the word pemmican officially. They don't know what it is. And so nobody is allowed to use the word pemmican on the label. There's one exception to that, which is the beef jerky brand, which the brand name is pemmican. So they get to say pemmican because that's their company name, even though they don't make pemmican. They make just beef jerky.
So it said pemmican, and then they had to recall it.
They recalled it all.
Yeah.
And
they said, we can't do this.
2 months, I was waiting for some sort of resolution. I couldn't sell it. And I was sitting on my hands. And finally they said, you can say beef bar because it's made of beef, which is really non-specific compared to pemmican. Like it's a beef bar, but it's dried beef mixed with rendered beef fat, which is pemmican. So, the USDA, I kind of wanted to go Ted K on them, but it's,
So did you
talk about that here.
Let's see. Did you? Oh, no, I just lost my train of thought. Ted K. You started talking about him. Is he? Did we ever figure out if he's still alive or?
I think he's still alive.
Still alive.
I saw a rumor that he died, but
okay.
Yeah. Anyways, it's just so frustrating, this bureaucratic red tape.
Yeah, you had just launched, and you got your article published with Gab News.
Yeah.
A couple articles, and people were starting to buy it, right?
Yeah, a lot of people.
Oh, yeah. So David Treebeard. How did you pick that name, by the way? I know that's something to do with Lord of the Rings, right?
Yeah. Well, David's my Christian name, and I chose that It's not even King David. It's Saint David the Dendrite, which means the tree dweller. And I didn't really choose it. I looked at the 8th day after my birthday, according to the old calendar, and saw which saint was commemorated on that day.
Okay.
Because that was the traditional.
When you would have been baptized.
Baptized or
right.
Circumcised, right?
Also baptized. Well, there's
baptized is 8th day.
Depends on
Isn't
different
it like 40 days.
Depends on there's different traditions. I think the Greeks and the Russians do it differently.
Well, I would have gotten my name on that 8th day after I was born. So,
okay.
Saint David the Dendrite he chose me, and it's kind of cool because he lived in a tree for 3 years, and I actually lived in a tree house at one point for 3 months.
Kind of like, did you? Oh,
yeah.
Cool. Kind of like a pillar dweller, but in a tree instead.
Yeah, he was a monk who was really holy, and then the abbot at his monastery died, and all the brethren were coming to make him the new abbot, and he fled into a tree because he was worried about his pride, which is something I have to worry about too. So that's David. That's why David. And then the Treebeard is just I love Treebeard from the Lord of the Rings, and I love the idea of sort of this mysterious force of nature that like is doing its own thing, and then at the moment when everything is on the line and it's needed most, it shows up for the sake of goodness and truth.
So
sorry, I'm just putting this back on.
You can follow him on Gab or Twitter as David Treebeard if you want to find him.
Yeah.
Are we gonna try it?
Let's do it. So this is the 4-ounce pemmican bar. This guy has 40 grams of protein and 60 grams of fat. Break off a piece. And this there's a lot of tallow here. So
how do you eat pemmican?
I typically just eat it straight. You can melt it into soup if you want. What I found with pemmican is that the more you eat it, the better it tastes. Because I enjoyed it before I started making it, but it was really that 30 days of eating only pemmican. By day 30, I thought I would be sick.
You didn't get sick of it?
But the opposite happened, and I was like, this is great. This is all I need. This is great. So, here.
I was about to say.
Yeah. So this little bite probably has 110 calories or something.
Yeah. So you gotta be careful. Just
eat
it slow.
Eat it slow. Drink a sip of water with it. And sometimes the tallow kind of coats the roof of your mouth. So I like to drink coffee or tea with it.
Oh, okay.
And then the other thing about it is it's so small and dense that you could eat this 750 calorie 4-ounce bar here and not even realize that you ate anything because it takes up so little space in your stomach. So that's how you feel satiated.
Oh, okay.
But you don't feel it physically. Like, when you eat a Chipotle burrito or a big burrito, and it's just sitting there. It's like a football in your abdomen.
Yeah.
This is the exact opposite of that experience, basically. Yeah.
So this is ready for order. You guys, people watching, if you want to go try it out, the fast is over. So maybe go support a local business. This is all locally sourced too, right? You get it from farms, the people.
Mm-hmm. All family-owned farms.
In the valley here? All
some in the valley and a couple east of the mountains.
Okay.
Out near Sisters and Bend. But yeah. It's all local. It's produced down in Southern Oregon. We got a couple comments here. Don't need no chocolate bar when you got yourself a pemmican bar. True. It's like a savory form of chocolate. How filling is it? Well, it doesn't feel filling, but it's satiating, if that makes sense. Like it's not going to literally fill the space, but it gives you what you need, to run on it. So eating 12 to 16 ounces of it kind of gives you the energy that you need. And I think the amount of fat helps with the satiation. So it just feels really solid. And the NC Harris says pemmican is the nuclear power of food. That's right.
You got a reactor in your
This is
stomach.
like enriched plutonium right here,
Is it plutonium or
so much
uranium?
NC, you're gonna have to fill us in on that. I think it's either one. Okay, either. Correct.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Uranium.
This guy has some knowledge.
This is uranium. I saw a plutonium version too. It's even more explosive. So, this might be a little TMI, but when I was doing the 30 days of pemmican, my bowel movements were absolutely immaculate.
That's okay. Yeah, we could talk about BMs.
The
That's
BMs, the BMs were off the charts. Easily.
I need to do this, man. I need to try this because maybe I'll go on the keto, try it for a month or something, and it'd be hard with lifting weights though, because you need the carbs for energy. But if
I don't know.
but when I go to the gulag and they won't let me use weights, then I'll have the opportunity to go on the all meat diet.
I don't know if they're gonna let you get the pemmican and the gulag, man. They're gonna give you the bug gruel.
Z bugs.
The honest patriot. This message is being held for review because he's making a joke. Strontium 90 flavor coming soon. Use code IdleTree for 5% off.
Oh, he
Nice.
Yes. Oh, I love that.
Strontium 90. Strontium is delicious, I will say. We've all got that in our bones, right?
IdleTree, that's like got multiple meanings there. That's my song, and you're the tree driller, so he's got a.
That's right. IdleTree. Yeah, so the pemmican's good, and
if you sign up for your newsletter, you get 11% off, right?
Yeah.
Go to the website, put in for your first order.
Mm-hmm.
So you go to his website, you put in your email, you get 11% off the first order.
Yeah, and we make a version with lard too instead of beef tallow.
Oh.
And it's a bit softer. It's less saturated fat, and so the consistency is more of a spread. You can spread it on toast, add it to rice and beans, add it to macaroni and cheese. And honestly, I love this tallow bar, but the lard is something about lard that tastes way better than tallow. Yeah, it's just it tastes like bacon. I call it bacon in a bag. It's so bomb. It's really, really good.
So how many days, if I started eating this, how long would I get into ketosis? If I just was eating this, how long would it take?
I think that's going to depend. I know people who go into ketosis in 2 days.
2 days?
Yeah, but that's if they're regular at ketosis, I think.
Oh, so it could take longer?
I did it twice. This summer, I went into ketosis because I did 3 weeks eating the pemmican, and it took 10 days. For me, the first time.
So were you using a pee stick, or how did you know?
I didn't measure any of that. I just felt it.
Okay. Because actually, ketosis has been studied for schizophrenia. It's supposed to be good for schizophrenia because it's anti-inflammatory, and there's a lot of. So I
believe it.
Yeah.
And you need the niacin, so you need more saturated fat.
Okay. There's niacin in that. Okay.
Well, no, but if you don't eat saturated fat, you deplete your niacin by manufacturing it endogenously.
All right.
But yeah, the second time I went into ketosis, it took 5 days. It took half the time.
Right.
So put the lard version in the hiking bag with your hardtack. Yeah. Hardtack. Delicious. Gotta love it. Yeah, so that's the pemmican. And can I talk about the spiritual aspect of pemmican?
Okay, sure.
Okay, so I'm probably the person in the world who's the most obsessed with pemmican in the last 100 years because it's such a niche little strange thing.
Yeah, there's no one else selling pemmican out there. He's the only one.
Yeah, it's hard to find, which is really why I started the company, because I was like, I want this. There's probably other people who want this too. And so pemmican, it became a verb in England. The Oxford English Dictionary has the verb pemmicanize, which is it's a general verb that means to condense something into its most dense and smallest form. So you can pemmicanize, history by compiling different sources and make it into one story. You can pemmicanize, young Penitent's, rap career into like one line potentially. You know what I mean? Like you can take something like a whole bison on the hoof and then pemmicanize it into a 90-pound pillowcase. So pemmicanize is this verb that I really like to refer to things beyond just pemmican and food. And so I was thinking about, what's the spiritual meaning of pemmican, because I try to interpret sort of everything in nature to me like points toward God, like we were saying before. So I try to interpret the aspects of nature that I encounter and see what about this is guiding me, helping with my salvation, guiding my soul to deeper communion with God. And so I was thinking about this quote from the Desert Fathers, or a description of the Desert Fathers, maybe about, hold on, we got a comment here. Young Penitent and David's new rap name Young Pemmicant on a collab album coming soon. Correct. The album's called Big Fat in Your Face. In the building. And so the Desert Fathers, they moved out to the desert because, and they said they became holy because they were deprived of the water of praise from the world. So they were like plants that can grow in the desert without the water of praise and attention. And they became stronger that way. And then if you look at fat in a spiritual sense, fat is really interesting in scripture. I think it's the only part of the animal sacrifices in Leviticus that only God eats, right? A lot of the rest of the animal sacrifices are shared with God, but the fat is only for God.
They would just burn it.
Yeah. All the fat from the animals. And so no people could eat it according to the sacrificial laws of Leviticus. And that's because it's the best part. The fat is the most nutrient dense part of the animal. It's the part that contains the most life along with the blood. And so essentially, and the other thing about fat is that this is why it keeps so long. Fat is extremely antimicrobial. So this saturated fat is going to stay good for decades upon decades, which is sort of an icon of the imperishability of God. And like we were talking about before, the blessed food having less bacteria and basically, more staying power. So in that sense, the pemmican is sort of this, I like to interpret it as this icon of basically taking the flesh and dehydrating it by removing it from the waters of the world that give us praise, that give us status, that feed our greed and all of our passions. So we become this dried version of ourselves, and then mixing that with the sort of icon of eternity, which is the saturated fat. You have this yourself sort of desiccated of the passions mixed with the imperishable energies of God.
It's a little bit of a stretch.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. I mean, it's what Father James would call a pious
opinion,
pious opinion or something like that. Yeah. I mean, it's not. Yeah. I don't think we're going to have to call a council to determine the symbolic status of pemmican. But
So if you want to be like more holy, you eat pemmican. It'll make you holy. Be like the desert fathers. Remove yourself from the something.
yeah, remove yourself from the praise of men and eat pemmican. And that's probably what would help you become holy. I don't know if pemmican's going to help you become holy. I don't know. I don't market it that way, at least.
But healthier, and if you're healthier, you'll probably, if you're healthy, you can glorify God more. Usually, actually, like that's possible. One angle. Take care of yourself, guys. Take care of your health. Make it a priority. Be careful what you put in your body. Yeah. If you're watching and you haven't hit the like, do that for me now, and hit the subscribe button. If you're not subscribed,
hit the bell.
And the bell button.
Hit the bell too while you're at it. Ring ding.
So I think I'm kind of getting off the every 5th day schedule here. Sorry guys, but I'm gonna keep producing content. I'm not done. I'm not quitting or anything. Maybe just try to do a little better, like focus more on quality than quantity here. For my next, we have a friend who moved to Russia recently. So that might be my next stream or coming up soon. We have a guy going to talk about his experience moving to Russia, and he'll try to talk you into it too.
Yeah. How much time do you have? He'll want to sell you on Russia. He's having a great time over there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What cuts of meat do you put in there? Let's see.
Oh yeah. So the beef in here is lean. You want as lean of beef as possible because it dries better that way. So you mix the super lean beef with the pure fat. So this comes from it's probably the bottom round roast.
Oh, okay.
Which is sort of like bottom of the back, top of the back leg there, and very lean. Sort of a cheaper muscle cut. Works really well. Anna says, I think there might be a comparison in the Bible along those lines about how will be the fat of the land. Yeah, I think eating the fat of the land is sort of a symbolic description of heaven, right? Like the promised land. And because the fat is the best part. It's what we reserve for God. It's what we're promised through salvation. What else?
I don't have anything else. You got anything else?
Big ups, young Penitent.
Is your friend?
That's it.
Is your
Blessed
friend,
Lord's Day.
Was your friend in the chat? What was his name? He was going to ask a question.
Oh yeah. Well,
he didn't.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, that's it. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you to David Treebeard for providing me with another more content because it was his idea for my last stream too. So that's two in a row. He's helping me out.
I need calendar stream.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I need all the help I can get.
New calendarists are just hurting right now.
Yeah. We just
obliterated.
We just took him down.
Julian calendar supremacy.
Choked him out.
All right.
All right. Good night, guys.
Thanks for everybody for watching.
Bye.